All right, so our featured speaker today, true pro, John Wayne Walding, and first time we met in person was today. Got introduced through a mutual friend who had heard him and was just so blown away by his story and his presentation. He immediately reached out, was like, Nathan, you got to get this guy. So called, talked to him on the phone, shared a lot of commonalities, from a life journey, call to service, but his career far exceeds mine. His sacrifice is not even worth comparing in any regard. And got to spend some time visiting with him earlier today. Can already tell you it's somebody that I love and respect, that I will have a relationship with the rest of my life. So I do not want to be long-winded. John Wayne, let's get you up here and let you do your thing. Thank you, brother.
Be advised, you have Hog 5-3 still on station, and you have Hog 5-5 en route to RIP with that aircraft, over. Cleared in hot on all buildings. Cleared hot. All right, boys, cleared hot, all the buildings to the east. Right this way. Roger, I confirm 9 casualties, over.
What you just heard, that wasn't Hollywood, that was hell. Right, that wasn't an actor reading a script that was gonna go into a movie one day. That was my team leader calling in medevac birds to get us out from dying. Right, that was the day, April 6, 2008, where 15 Green Berets went up against 250 insurgents. Right, it was a day that I never gave more effort in my life. It was a day that I'd never experienced more fear in my life. It was a day that no matter what I did, I woke up that next morning in a hospital bed, staring at ceiling tiles, terrified to look down. Right, terrified because I didn't know if I was gonna have one leg or was I gonna have two. But before I tell you about what that feeling was like, right, the inevitability of what that answer was going to be for me, let me tell you about April 6, 2008, where ODA 3336 went up against insurmountable odds. I haven't aged a day, have I? I'll tell you, I still look good in a green hat. Where's my SF guy at? Imagine waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning knowing you're about to go do bad things to bad people. Right? And it's April in Afghanistan, which means it's cold. It also means you're going up to 10,000 feet above sea level, which means you're going to be even colder once you get there. And you're inside that helicopter like you're looking at right there, and you got the rotors spinning. If you've ever been inside a helicopter, you know it don't like to just sit there. Right? It's violent shaking, just going just like this, and you feel the heat of the jet engines that are above you that are turning those rotors that are wanting to lift off. Right, you've got your headset on, right? That's not only your ear protection, but it's also your communication headset to where you're listening to your battlefield commander, which is your team leader, Kyle Walton, West Point graduate. You're also listening to the pilot that's in front of you that's talking to the JTOC commander that's giving real-time update. Is the bad guy still there? What are we doing? Let's get out of here and let's go. Because we were getting delayed because of the weather. And if you know much about rotary aircraft, they don't like to fly in the rain. Right, and you imagine just sitting there with all your brothers, it's cold, but you got the heat and you're shoulder to shoulder with everybody, and you got in your command all the comms that are going from left to right, and you never will forget hearing those 3 words that every cool guy wants to hear. Execute, execute, execute. And that's when you feel yourself lift off the ground. When you lift off the ground, that's when you have that intense presence I call living. Not like Matthew McConaughey, L-I-V-I-N, right? There's nothing wrong with that living. But imagine what it was like whenever you lift off the ground, you don't know if you're going to be alive when those wheels landed. Right? You see those HESCO barriers that are in the back of that picture. Imagine what it feels like when you actually see above those HESCO barriers and you don't know if there's going to be an RPG shoot you on your way in. You don't know if you're going to be alive for the next day, for the next month, the next year, the next minute. Now that's living. Right? That's a sensation. I promise you, you can't smoke it, snort it, eat it, or drink it. Right? It's actually addicting. There's one of those reasons why a lot of special operation guys, they have trouble transitioning. Right? Because when you're in that aircraft and you're flying to that objective, you're getting all the phase line checks, phase line alpha check, phase line bravo check. You're getting your real-time update. Hey, he's still there. We got 20 minutes time on target, and you got 10, 5. Now you're standing up, checking your buddy's kit, and you're just waiting for those words, go, go, go. That's living. And we actually get those words to go, and I'm standing. If you notice, there's a ramp at the backside of that helicopter, that CH-47 Chinook right there. And I go to jump off the back of that helicopter, but guess what? We're still in the air. Right? The boulders and the rocky terrain that was going into this 10,000-foot village that we were trying to get there, it was so bad that we couldn't even land. In fact, we had to jump 10 to 15 feet with our kit out of the back of that helicopter. Right? Like what Mike Tyson eloquently said, right? Everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face. That's what it was for us, minute one, day of Shock Valley. So imagine just taking up that ramp and then going to jump, and you got 10 to 15 feet. We thought we were going to lose, 20% of our element on sprained knees, twisted ankles, right? What you would think would happen whenever you jump like that. Fortunately, we are superhuman as we thought we were that day. Nobody got injured. You know what we did? We went to work. Right? Because you had all that noise and all that fear and everything that what's just happening. All right, I just jump out of there. It can be real easy to let that noise overcome you, but you get settled in and you go to work. Right? Work for me, I was a SALT Team 1 leader. Right? SALT Team 1, our job was to be the first ones into this village, lock a house down. That way anything happens, we can come into that house and we can have a casualty collection point. We can have a command and control point. That's our safety on the mountain. Right? Because if you've ever been in a mountain, especially in Afghanistan, you realize you have no cover or concealment. You're just literally climbing goat paths, right? Switchbacks up left and right to get to your objective. So it was my job to get us safety. Right? It was my job to get us that cover and concealment to make sure that no matter what happens, we can keep us alive. And I was laser focused on doing my job, and about 40 yards from my position to that first house, we got opened up on with an avalanche of gunfire. I don't say avalanche to beat my chest or sound cool or be dramatic. That's the reality of what I faced at that moment. Right? And to put it into perspective, the avalanche that we received, the first round that was fired, our lead interpreter, CK, got shot right in the face, died on impact. What do you think happens there? You ever try to talk to an Afghani that doesn't speak English? Now our capability is cut in half because CK can't talk to him. Not only that, Dylan Bear, our RTO, radio transmitting operator, 18 Echo, Special Forces Communications Sergeant. That guy knew what he was doing about making sure that we had communication with higher. He got shot in the hip. The initial assessment on him was 20 minutes to live. Do the backwards math there, right? You know we're not going to suppress the enemy in 20 minutes. We're dang sure not getting off the mountain that we just climbed in 20 minutes. We're not going to get the medevac bird there in 20 minutes, much less get him on there and get him out of there. Well, so what happened to your brother? He's dead. Right? CK's dead. Dylan's going to die. Luis Morales, our 18 Fox, right? He's a Special Forces intelligence officer. I never will forget the sound of his voice coming through my headset. Remember, we got the headset. You hear it intimately in your ears. Your brother Luis saying, "John, come get me, brother." That may not be like a big deal to you, but that's a huge deal to me. You know why? Because you don't say John on the radio. Right? Military has proper radio etiquette. Right? Bravo 1, this is Bravo 2, over. Echo 1, this is Echo 3, over. He said, "John, come get me." So where do you think my head's at? All right, CK's dead, Dylan's dying, Luis is so bad he's dead. So when I say it was an avalanche of gunfire, that's exactly what we faced. You know what I did? I went to work. Right? Because I had a lot of noise at that moment, figurative and literal. Right? You've got the literal noise of RPGs coming in at you, of RPKs and all the machine guns, AK-47s, literally all the way impacting around you. And then you got the figurative noise about, oh, my brothers are dying. I don't know what we're going to get support. We just got airlifted into there. So we know we don't have an air reaction force that's in the area. but you block that noise out. Right? In the battlefield, it could be something like that. In the boardroom, it could be a bad QBR, right? Or a labor shortage, or COVID, or whatever it is that you're like, I have no idea what's going to get us out of here. What do? You go to work. Right? So again, my job was to be the guy, the SALT Team 1 leader, to be in that village. I know I couldn't, so what else can I do? All right, next plan is put heads down. Because if their head is down, it's not up pointed at us. If it's not pointed at us, therefore their gun's not pointed at us. If their gun's not pointed at us, guess what? They're not shooting at us. Pretty simple math, right? So I went to work for about 2 hours. Think about what it felt like for 2 hours. I've been on here for 10 minutes. You're probably tired of hearing me speak already, right? Imagine if I was still here 2 hours from later. At 2 hours, we actually had to initiate what I called Operation Human Shield, right? Because with Dylan shot, Louise shot, we only had one medic that was on that objective, right? One guy keeping them alive. And if you do the math, when one guy's shot, you got two people that's got to help them, right? Two people carrying the wounded. Well, you got two shot, so that's 6 out of the fight. Ron's helping them. There's only 10 of us on the mountain. I'm running out of fingers. So we knew we can't come upwards. We got to go downwards. And that's what we did. We went down to their position that they were pinned in and did the best that we could. And I never will forget getting shot. I took a step like this. I was trying to move from one position to the next, and I felt the most pain that I ever felt in my life. I fell forward, and I rolled over like this, and my leg, it was just hanging at a 45-degree angle, only by an inch of flesh. You know what I did? I did what any human would do. I cried out, "Oh my God!" I looked at my brother Dave. I said, "Dave, you got to help me." I thought to myself, am I going to die? Right? I didn't do this Green Beret thing like you would see on TV, right, where you just tell your sergeant, "I don't have time to bleed." That's not how Army or battle really works. I did what any human would do. I had this great sense of fear of what's going to happen, looking at my leg, knowing that I'm not qualified to fix this. But you know what I did? I went to work. Right? Because that's all noise too. Am I going to die? What's going to happen? All of these things. I knew one thing. I got to stop the bleeding. Right? You want to be a trauma doc? Here's how it is. Pretty dang simple. Air goes in and out. Blood goes round and round. If you can keep that happening, you can keep somebody alive a lot longer until somebody's smarter than you can get to them. Right? So blood wasn't going round and round, so I got my tourniquet out. How did I do that? I asked my buddy Dave. Right? I asked for help. "Dave, you got to help me." Well, just think about not even the pain side of it, but logistically, if your leg's just hanging over, how am I going to grab it and do the tourniquet? Like, I knew I wasn't qualified. But my brother helped me. And by the way, Dave met us downrange. This was his first deployment as a Green Beret. So you want to talk about somebody that just had golf ball or softball-sized eyes, right? Because this was the worst casualty he's ever seen. But you know what Dave did? He went to work. We fixed the tourniquet. And at one point, every time I would move, it would like flop on a rock, and I had the most pain again that I've ever felt. And I just grabbed my leg, and I literally folded it up like this, and I held it between my thighs, and that's how I carried it off the mountain. Why? Because that's what I'm supposed to do, right? No excuses, go to work. And then I continued to fight. I fought for about another 30 minutes, and I never will forget seeing my team sergeant, Scott Ford, get shot. Right? The team sergeant, no offense to the officers in the room, right? But the team sergeant, that's the guy we're looking for. Right, team? Scott Ford was in the military for 16 years at the time. He was in the 82nd Airborne before he went to 3rd Special Forces Group where we were. He'd been to all the cool guy schools, killed more people in cancer. Like, in my mind, Chuck Norris wore Scott Ford underwear, right? If you don't know who Chuck Norris is, he's a theologian back in the 90s. Look it up. Start with Walker, Texas Ranger. But he was the guy. And I see him get shot closer from me to you. That's one thing I want to make sure that you realize how intimate of a firefight this was. This is a big room that we're in, right? We fill up a lot of space right here, which, by the way, congratulations, Nate, for being able to fill up a big room like this, Nathan. This is awesome. We were on goat trails fighting shoulder to shoulder. So whenever Louise called me over the radio, I saw his eyes. I saw the whites in his mouth moving, saying, "John, come get me." My blood was on David whenever I had to ask him for help. Scott was 5 feet from me when I saw him get shot right in his breastplate and he dropped down. What do you think that does to your mindset when you're that intimate with war? Well, we went to work. As awesome as I said Scott was, he got back up, he started fighting again. He's a left-handed guy, right? He continued to fire. And then he got shot again in his left shoulder. So imagine what it was like with me. I'm sitting on my butt at the time, right? I'm trying to shoot this way, and he's shooting the same direction, and I just see that shoulder flay off the backside. And that's when I realized, all right, we're probably not going to make it out of here. And we started dropping ordnance. When I say ordnance, I'm talking about 250-pound bombs, 500-pound bombs, 1,000, even 2,000-pound JDAMs were dropped on top of us. And if that's not significant, I'll put it into perspective. Danger close for a 2,000-pound JDAM is over a 10 football field stacked end to end, right? It's over 1,000 meters. They were dropping 100 yards on top of our heads. So imagine the explosion of what it's like for that huge ordnance to go off right on top of you. And then now you've got to deal with rocks, right? Because what's a mountain? It's a big rock. What happens when you blow it up? It makes small rocks. Gravity's the law. In fact, Dylan, the first guy to get shot, which we always say it was Dylan's fault because he got shot. Then Luis went to help him. He got shot. I went to help Luis. I mean, it's just, Dylan wouldn't have got shot. We'd have been all right that day. But his intestines was actually ruptured because of a boulder that fell on him after a detonation. And that's how we got off the mountain. We actually, before I actually get off the mountain, I'll tell a story. I'm running late right now already. You got to watch out, man. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew talking about some awesome stuff. Here we go. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Come on. All right, so I never will forget, we dropped the first bomb, and I was moving it, and man, it hurt, right? And I thought to myself, hey, I got a morphine injector, right? I need a little bit of Dr. Feelgood in me. You know what the injectors are, right? You just stick it in, and then a needle comes out, give you some pain medicine. And I live by the creed that I'm dumb, but I know I'm dumb, so it almost makes me smart, right? Some of you should write that down. Right, so I asked my medic, I'm like, hey, Rod, what side down? He's like, yellow, cool. I went just like this, and then the needle went in my thumb. You want to talk about a mixture of rage and pain, and again, we're from me to you, right? So it wasn't like he was way over there and I misheard him. Like he knew what I was asking, and I knew what he said, and I grabbed it, I threw it at him. I'm like, you had one job, Ron, one job, and I said some other colorful language that I can't, I wasn't near as faithful as I was back then, but it hurt. And since I'm on Ron, I'll give you the last story with him. So again, it had to have been 30 minutes, right? I did the morphine. I had my leg. I'm sitting there kicking my own ass, right? Because my leg's up here. It's doing all right. I already did my thumb. The leg is a little shaky, but my hand's good, And it dawned on me that the only person keeping me alive is me. Right? And again, I'm not qualified. Nobody's ever come check on me. Right? I get it. They had their hands full. But again, Ron's right there. I'm like, come check me out, man. ABCs, all the stuff, and make sure I did this right and all the things. And I'm telling you, I remember this just like it was yesterday. His little peanut head, he was working on Dylan. And he looked at me and he put it up like that. He gave me a look and he gave me a thumbs up and said, you're good. I'm not good, Ron. Like, I know me good. This is not good. So I'm cussing him again. Telling him I'm going to beat him with my leg when I see him. How he sucks at life and all the things. But obviously he knew I was good if I'm sitting there able to cuss him like I was. But I wanted to feel special. Who here likes to feel special? Not just me, right? Well, I wanted to feel special at the time. And he wasn't giving me the love. But anyway, so they drop a bomb and I literally would scoot on my butt to the edge of the cliff. Because the goat path, that was the easy way up. Right now, we got to go the hard way, which is falling 10 to 20-foot cliffs all the way to the base of the mountain. And so I just scoot just like this, and I would just roll over, wash, rinse, and repeat all the way to the base of the mountain. Right? And then we had our first helicopter come in. He literally got shot. Right? You heard the audio that we heard before, right, from the radio traffic. We literally have radio traffic of the pilot say, I'm hit, I'm going south. He got shot, and he flew away. So imagine what it was like for me to just be there. Again, I'm on the ground. Scott's got his arm up there, and Scott's just reaching. You know what a medevac helicopter looks like, right? It's got that red cross, and it's trying to elevate her down. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Finally going to get out of here. Yeah, they're shooting at us, but we're going to make it through. And then it flies away. Right? What does that do to your mindset? But we just went back to work. Now we're getting shot at, and they drug us back across this. I actually got drugged through a lake or a river from the base of the mountain into the middle of the, where a valley is. They call it a wadi downrange. I don't know why you change a continent. They change names, but we were in the middle of a wadi, and in order to get there, you had to cross that river. Well, now I'm crossing it back, and it was like the OG cold plunge, right? All you health nuts say, it wasn't near as fun then. And then the second medevac bird comes. At this point, it was an air reaction force, which all it was a UH-60 with some Green Berets on it. They said, we're going to go get him out of there. And they came down, and I never will forget the sound of the rounds hitting that aircraft, but the pilot's head was like an oak. He wasn't moving. He wasn't going anywhere until he got us out of there. And they literally threw us onto this UH-60, and we start flying away. And I think, thank you, baby Jesus. I'm finally going to make it out of here, right? I got hypothermia and a gunshot wound. Let's make this a quick flight. Well, it was a quick flight. Within 5 minutes, we're not even out of this mountain range, and all I hear is beep, 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 beep. We actually had to do a crash landing. All the damage that aircraft took getting us out of there couldn't make it to Jalalabad, where the nearest hospital was. So I'm like, okay, cool, here we go. And I do a crash landing. Fortunately, no one got hurt, cross-loaded to the next guy or the next aircraft, and they got us to the hospital. And I always talk about what it was like going to the hospital because it's something that will stay with me forever. War is a young man's game, right? You can join the military at 17 years old with a parent's permission, go to your basic training for a couple weeks, do your little medic class, and then literally be downrange saving lives. Imagine what those young men and women were like when you have all these Green Berets get chunked at you like extras from a Saw 5 movie. Right, my guy, he had another, just like Dave, had eyes like grapefruit. He was overwhelmed, just looking at me, blood everywhere. A kit was there, everything was shot. I wish I had time to show you pictures of everything that was shot on us that day, and just to see him laser focus on my leg, but guess what? My lungs collapsed. You want to know the most terrifying moment? It wasn't my leg getting shot off. It's finally getting to the hospital, being closer for me to you, and I can't tell the guy, I can't breathe. The only thing that I knew to do was just to grab him, pull him close, point at my mouth, the universal, I can't breathe. That's the good news, he actually found out. The bad news is, you know how he fixed it? He didn't give me one, but he gave me 2 chest tubes with no anesthesia. If you don't know what that is, that means he grabbed the knife, went between my ribs, and cut a hole to stick a hose in my lungs so it can breathe for me. The first time he cut through, I literally grabbed the guy and I threw him over me. The last thing that I remember was seeing a wave of medical professionals come to hold me down so they can give me that second one, and that's whenever I pass out. And I wake up that next day staring at those ceiling tiles. Right before I go through that, I always make it a point to talk about our accolades, right? Because Green Berets, it's our mottos is called, the quiet professionals, right? In the teams, we always say, shut your mouth, don't be a SEAL. Am I right? Am I right? Where's my SF guy? I always say, we don't write books or do movies, we fight the war, right? Come on. So the accolades for that day, we had 15 Green Berets go up against 200 insurgents, and after 6.5 hours, there were 70 danger close air strikes. 10 Silver Stars were awarded, which 2 of those were upgraded to the Medals of Honor. 8 Purple Hearts were awarded, right? 8 got shot, 10 on the mountain. Do the math. The Air Force Cross was awarded, but 0 Americans killed. How awesome is that? How awesome of a fighting force. 15 guys, you can clap for it, by the way, the ones that were sitting there doing that. I don't know how the commanders of the enemy gets their guys hyped up. Like, hey guys, check it out. There's 15 dudes coming, they're gonna kill us. Y'all ready? Like, I don't know how it works. But that's an awesome story, isn't it? Right? Everybody asked me about April. There's books written about it. I just did an interview for Paramount Plus show. They're gonna do another story on all the stuff that's happened. Everybody asked me about April 6th. Nobody ever asked me about April 7th. Right? Because April 7th is when I wake up in that hospital bed. Just like that. Terrified of what the next moment of my life is going to be, because I'm pretty sure that I knew my leg was gone. I'm pretty sure that knowing what I just did the day before, they weren't going to be able to fix it. And I was procrastinating to know that answer. And when I looked down, I saw there was only one foot sticking up. And you know what I did? I cried. I cried, God, why me? Why did you do this to me? I'm a good guy. Why did this happen to me? You know how much effort I put to get here? I was angry. I was scared. Right? The 27-year-old Green Beret that at that moment I could do anything I set my mind to, but that's the day I realized the inevitability of the word can't. I can't walk. Not without this prosthetic. Without this prosthesis, I'm in a wheelchair. Right? Without this prosthesis, I can't play football with my kids. I can't take one step. I'm a disabled man. And for that kid, I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to know how to deal with it. But that's why I'm here today. It's not to tell you a cool guy story. It's to tell you about what happens when life punches you in the face. What are you going to do about it? Here's what helped me overcome that word can't. First and foremost, believe this, it's God. God is real. God loves me, and God is the reason why I'm standing here today. Amen? Because if you don't believe me, there's no tactical handbook that says 15 guys are going to go up against 200, and 6.5 hours later, not only are they still alive, but they win. But with God's, it happens. Right? There's no medical handbook that says that this guy gets his leg shot off, and 4 hours later on the battlefield, not only is that guy still alive, but one day he's going to run a marathon. But with God's it is. And what that did, it just galvanized my faith. Right? To realize that I needed to change my question from, hey, God, why me? To what are you teaching me? Because believe this, room, I gave it to God on the battlefield. And it wasn't this theatrical like you would see in the movie, my hands up, it's raining, and it's turning around like Shawshank Redemption or something like that. I know what it feels like to die. Not figuratively, literally. Hours and hours after only having a tourniquet to keep me alive, I was dying. And guess what? It wasn't scary. It actually was comforting. Right? It was comforting to know, hey man, just go to sleep and it's all going to go away. You want to stop hurting? Just lay back and let it all go. And that's whenever I said inside, internally, God, this is all I got. I got nothing else. I cannot give you more. So if I make it out of here, it's nothing that I did. It's everything of what you're going to do. And when I woke up and I realized that he saved me, it changed everything about everything. It didn't change it immediately, by the way. It was a long, long, drawn-out sanctification process. But it changed the what are you teaching me? You know what he taught me? Is that you always grow through struggle. Ain't that the truth? Right? When he took this leg, Fox News alert, it sucks being one-legged, right? So it is a struggle that I have to continually deal with. But you know what I've learned after I got shot in 2008, so for all the time being an amputee, that I learned it's one of the best gifts that he ever given me. I'll say that again. Taking my leg was one of the best gifts that God ever gave me. You know why? Because it taught me some things. First and foremost, it taught me gratitude. Who here is grateful to be alive? I know I am. Who here is grateful for every single step that you take in life? Every single step. I know I am. That intense gratitude, I hope you learn to find. I hope that because this world that we're living in now, it's all about chasing happiness, right? We got chasing greatness. They don't say chasing happy. Life ain't about being happy. Right? Because what is happiness? Well, it's tied to happenings, isn't it? Right? You score a touchdown, you're happy. You missed a field goal, you're sad. Well, if you put yourself at the center of your happiness, guess what? You're always going to let yourself down. So instead of chasing that, why don't you chase gratitude that really gives you the joy of thanking God that you were in the game to play to begin with. Right? Being grateful that you got a job to go to be in 5 o'clock traffic. Right? To be thankful to God that you've got those kids that are just giving you all the problems. Because you know how many parents are out there just praying to get pregnant? That's the gratitude that I hope that you find. And without taking this leg, I never would have found it. Another thing that this struggle has taught me is humility. Right? Brody just said it before me. You know, Tim Keller, I think, said it best. It's like humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's just thinking of yourself less. Right? Think about this, in this room somewhere is the strongest guy. There is no question that we're stronger together though, right? It doesn't matter who's stronger. It's about how much can we lift. And it takes humility for you to learn that. Like, you want to change the world here, room? How about the next time you go into a room, you don't go into it looking to what you can take. You go in it looking to what you can give. Think about that statement. Don't walk into a room and say, oh, you know what? I know that woman over there. She's an assistant to the regional manager of this, and I need something from there. So I'm going to go make sure that I talk about how pretty she is and make sure that I get something from her. Right? Or I know this guy over here, he's got this thing. I don't want to work a deal with him, and I need to go make sure that he knows that I'm here, that he knows that I'm here, that they know that I'm here. That way we can go do a deal together. Why don't you walk into the room and say, you know what? I know that she just had to deal with her mom as in the hospital. Let me go make sure that she don't need to be prayed for. Right? I know he just had his son had an ankle injury. I want to make sure he's okay. Why don't you do that? Oh, hey, by the way, why don't you go look at the weirdo that's sitting by themselves? By the way, if you don't know you're the weirdo, then, you're the weirdo. Because we all have them, let's be real, right? Go check on them. Say, hey, man, what you doing? What's your name? That's how you change the world, but it takes humility to get there, right? It takes a humble posture to walk in the room, not worried about you, but worried about what you can give. And this leg's what helped me get there. Another thing that it taught me is vulnerability. How about that, alpha men? You want to know what the most courageous, the most manliest things I've ever done in my life? It's ask for help. It's be vulnerable. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide. Why? Because they don't ask for help. Right? We've got this culture of, I got this. It's the most dangerous thing a man could ever say. Because how do you got this? You pick up a bottle and you drink it till it's done, then you pick up a gun after it, and now you got people folding a flag and giving it to your family. That vulnerability is a muscle that you can flex that I promise you it's the strongest thing that you will ever do. Men, you want to be the strongest man? Tonight when you go home, look at your wife in the eyes and say, hey, how can I pray for you? When's the last time you've done that? When's the last time you looked at your kids and you praised them for who they are, not the success that they do? Right? Because newsflash, almost none, statistically, none of your kids are going to the NFL. So how much money are you spending on what they're going to throw rather than who they're going to pray to? It takes vulnerability to have that intimate relationship with them. That's what it takes. And then obviously intentional, right? Being intentional. You can never forget that every day is a blessing from God. Don't forget that. Never let every single day go away from you. Never let any opportunity go away from you because it might be your last. I know that full well. And it was God that helped me get through. There's a second thing to help me overcome this word can't. Y'all don't need to see this anymore, do you? It's my family. My family's been with me through this entire process. I always jokingly say, I had 2 kids before I was shot and 2 kids after I was shot. So suck that, Taliban. I don't die, I multiply. Let's go, huh? Let's go. Shoot me again. I have a little fire team of infidels running around. But my wife, whenever I got shot, I had those, my oldest, Sam and Emma, and we were in an apartment outside because I was in special operations. They gave me a 2-bedroom apartment. It was awesome, hardwood floors, all the cool stuff. And I never will forget, my wife, Amy, she's awesome. We homeschool our 4 kids. I call her the Green Beret mom. She's just absolutely amazing, but anyway, they were gone at the grocery store, so it was just me and my son, Sam. Right? I'm John and he's Sam. I tried to get John Wayne Jr., but they weren't going to Mama wasn't going to give me a John Wayne Jr. I'm like, all right, so I'll name him. My hero was my grandfather. But anyway, he was jumping off the coffee table. I had my leg off at the time, and I always say we're not real friends, so we get leg off time together, And so we had some leg off time together, and he was jumping off the coffee table. I was teaching to be a paratrooper, right? He's a grown man. He's like 2 years old. He's gonna figure it out, feet and knees together and everything. And he actually goes to fall. So I stand up and I do what every parent would do, right? I stand up to go catch my son, but guess what? I don't have a leg. And just like I am right now, that stump went straight down in that hardwood floor and it split. My head hit on that floor 4 inches from him. He's crying, I'm crying. Trust me, I'm not crying because of the pain. I'm not even crying that he fell. I'm crying because I knew why. And the reason why I allowed my son to fall was because I was too doped up to catch them. Look, I'm not here to bash the military or the VA, say they overprescribe. If that's what you get out of this, then this is the wrong conversation. But let me just give you an idea of what I was on. Who here has ever heard of a Percocet? Right? Do you actually know what's inside it? It's a good lesson here, because that's not a medicine, right? Percocet's just a name that a marketing company told the pharmaceutical company this will sell better or it's less scary, right? What's in a Percocet is 325 milligrams of acetaminophen and then 5 milligrams of oxy, right? Oxycontin's the good stuff, right? That's the opioid epidemic that we have. They were prescribing me 80 milligrams of straight oxy 3 times a day. On top of anti-psych meds, on top of anti-inflammatory meds, on top of anti-anti meds, I was on about 12 different medications. So whenever I say I was a zombie, that's exactly what I was. So go back to that floor where we're both crying. I knew right then I had a choice. Because let's be real, room, that's what life's all about. It's a choice, isn't it? You either do it or you don't. Right? There's a time in life where it gives you an opportunity to stand up and act, or to stand back and make an excuse. And guess what? When you make that excuse, the next time you make that excuse, it's going to be a little easier, isn't it? And then the next excuse is going to be a little bit easier, all the way till you get to the point where you're so terrified to act because it's so far away. Think about the power of right now. Right now, make that choice. Right now, make the choice to say, you know what? I'm going to be the father my kids deserve. Right now, I'm going to make the choice where I'm going to stop drinking. Right now, make the choice, I'm going to be a passive man. I'm going to stand up for what is right because I know that's what God's taught me to be. Right now. Right then, I had that choice, pills or pain. And I chose pain. And guess what? It was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. Believe it or not, I have an addictive personality, if you haven't noticed right now. I don't go all in, I go all in. Right? Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Like even look at that pill bottle. It says take no more than 3 a day. I'm like, well, I ain't talking to John Wayne. I'm having a 6 and having a party. Who ever done that? Just me? I guess it's confession up here. That's all right. That's cool. Getting off those opioids was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, but it's the blessing that I never knew I had until I was off of it. Trust me, it was worth it. And if I didn't have my family with me, I never would have done it. I got to keep going faster now. The third thing to help me overcome that word, can't. Believe this. From the bottom of my heart, it's you. It's Americans. Never underestimate the magnitude of what those 2 words think you mean to a veteran. If you don't believe me, ask a Vietnam guy. Right? Ask a Vietnam guy that got drafted. Remember, if God ever put it in black and white, he did it for me. John Wayne, born on the 4th of July, Green Beret from Groesbeck, Texas. Let's go. I think a bald eagle flies over every time I say that, right? Imagine getting drafted and you don't dodge the draft. You man up, you go down range, you do the best you can, and what happens when you get back? They got spit on. Do y'all know that? They got called baby killers. Right? I know Vietnam friends of mine that said that they didn't even leave the airport in their uniform because they didn't want to get treated like a second-rate citizen. That happened here. Do you know what I got for my service to this nation? I got a bear hug. A genuine, warm bear hug of Americans that wanted me to know that it was worth it. Right? And that validation, which, by the way, we've got to answer that question when we lay our heads down every day, don't we? Is this worth it? And your thank you validated that, which what makes me who I am today, gives me the drive to not just be good, be great, to give me to be the first amputee to ever graduate Green Beret sniper school. Right after Army, I ran the Dallas Marathon. Look at my kids holding the thing for me. Then even after that, I did the Baton Death March with 45 pounds on my back. Why? Because you believed in me. You told me that my sacrifice was worth it, so I'm going to go be worth it every single day. Which, by the way, you see the Air Force guy just sitting on his rucksack? I'm just saying, shame on me. I could crop that out, couldn't I? I just can't do it, though. Look at him. He's like, I'm tired, boss. Y'all bring the truck. Look at him. All right. I got to close this up, and I know I'm going to go over time, so I'm just going to get right into it. I always tell everybody, here's what I want you to get from hearing me speak today. Right? Because somebody asked me that a long time ago, and it hit me hard. Because whenever he asked it, I'm like, well, I normally just black out when I wake up, everybody's clapping, right? That's a pretty good way. And when he asked me, and I really did some prayer and thought, and so here's what I want you to get from hearing me speak today. First thing, I want you to stop being good. And I want you to start being great. I'll say that again. Stop being good and start being great. Right? That's something different for every single one of you in here. That is unique to you. Right? It could be a habit that you need to get, or it could be one you need to quit. Right? It could be a relationship that you need to grab onto and hold close, or it could be one you need to run from. Who's had that one before? Just me again? All right. Fun on Saturday, not on Monday? Here's my challenge that I give to this room. I want you to have a brutal honesty with yourself when you look yourself in the mirror of what's keeping you from being great. Because you know what it was for me? If you hadn't noticed, I'll get real with you. For me, it was drinking. In the military, they teach you how to deal death, but not deal with it. Right? I could make up a plan to come and raid this room under night vision, look at you in the whites and eyes, pull the trigger, and sleep at night. Why? That's my job. You know what I couldn't get? That call that Ryan Savard's dead, that Willie Lubber's dead, that Aaron Bellagio's dead, that Ben Bentner's dead, that Dave Hurt's dead. I can go on and on and on. I didn't know how to deal with it. The last one, Chris Kyle, whenever he was murdered. I don't know if you know who he was. He was a Navy SEAL that wrote the book American Sniper, right? I was the lead instructor for his company, which I thought was awesome that, the Navy SEAL needed a Green Beret to teach for him. Come on, guy, right? I'm just saying, you keep writing books, man. We fight the war. That's what we do. I was supposed to be with him that day. Thank God I actually had to go sign out of the Army, and I got that call, Chris is gone. And you know what I did? I drank. It's what you're supposed to do, right? Toast to the fallen. Pour one out for the homies. That's just what you do. He loved Jack Daniels. By God, that's what I'm about to drink is some Jack Daniels because that's what Chris wanted, and that's what I'm supposed to do. And I woke up that next morning mad. Mad that I let him down. Right? Mad that I had that choice the night before. How am I going to honor him? Right? Because Chris don't have the choice of what type of husband he's going to be, but I do. He don't have the choice of what type of father he's going to be, but I do. And if I owe it, if I'm doing that for him, no. I owe it to him to live well, don't I? That's the day I had the brutal honesty. So you know what? I was 30 years old at the time, and I went over here and I saw this guy. I'm like, I never could remember as 30 years old a guy, me telling my boys, hey guys, I'm not drinking tonight. As you could probably expect, I was the other guy. Hey boys, we drinking tonight. Right? I was the fun guy. I really wasn't a fight guy. I was a fun guy, which, that's what validated me. Oh, babe, we're just having fun. Right? Oh, we're just having fun. That's all we're doing. So I said, I know what this guy's like. Let me see what this guy's like. And you want to talk about the opioids being the strongest pull towards something? Alcohol is the most elusive. Right? It's that snake in the grass that you can just walk around for years and years and years until that one time you step on it and it kills you. Or someone else. Kills your marriage or someone else's. Kills your relationship with your kids or someone else's. And I always jokingly say whenever I didn't quit alcohol, I started being great. And I had the honesty about what was keeping me from that. Because I never will forget the first time that I was in a social event and I wasn't drinking. I felt like with Ricky Bobby, I don't know, do my hands, right? This is how you talk to people, right here. This is how you talk to people. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, just being awesome. What about, that's just how you talk. And when I didn't have it, that's when I knew, okay, I got a problem. And I didn't quit drinking. I just started being great. And after 13 years of sobriety, let me tell you something, audience. That's the most and best gift I ever gave myself. Right? I don't drink now because if I think I have a sip, I'm going to go on a 3-week bender. I don't drink now because I love being awesome. Right? I love that I wake up with a clear head. I love that my wife's and I's relationship is the best. Why? Because I put a bottle down and I pick up a water bottle and I look at my wife and I say, hey, how is your day? How can I pray for you? I look at my kids. Now whenever I get that call, that somebody died, because if you probably don't know, we're always going to have special operation people deployed. Therefore, they will always die. When I get that call, I take my kids to the movies. Right? I do something good because they've hurt. All of those, Aaron, all of them doesn't have the choice of what type of father, but I do. And it took sobriety to get me there. So stop being good, start being great. Which, by the way, there's a reason why I put myself with my kids at Disney about being great. It wasn't a company that I sold, right? It wasn't a mountain that I've climbed. It wasn't any success thing that I have done. It's me being present with my kids. That's what being great is. It's also to show you I had a little baby Yoda hat with some night vision. Isn't that pretty cool? Second thing is be a part of something that's bigger than you. Right? Be a part of something that is bigger than you. Right? This selfie generation that we're living in, everybody's chasing more followers, a bigger house, more houses, bigger paycheck, like more, rather than what am I doing that matters more than me? You know, I tell kids when they take, again, going back to the selfie generation, I'll say, hey, when you take that selfie, think about being selfless. Right? What's the best example of what the selfless generation is, right? It's the greatest generation. People forget it wasn't soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that won World War II. Granted, they had a very big hand in it. What about the Americans that spent $18 billion buying war bonds to fund the war? Right? People forget about Rosie the Riveter, right? That left their house to go build in manufacturing plants. Speaking of those plants, people forget that Ford, Chevy, and Dodge stopped building cars. How bonkers crazy would that sound right now if that's what happened in America? They stopped building cars, retooled their plants, and they started building tanks, planes, and Jeeps. There were more Willys Jeeps built in a Ford plant than there was in a Willys plant. Why? Because then we had the compelling necessity to help each other to our left and right. Why? Because we're American. And that's what Americans do. That Teddy Roosevelt eloquently said, there is no 50-50 with being an American. You either are or you're not. What he meant by that, he meant by your identity. You want to bring this country back together? Let's start at our identity of just being an American. You know, I'm half Mexican, believe it or not. My mom, Betty Jo Huerta. I always say I'm 100% Texan because my dad was a roughneck. My mom's Mexican. Oil and tacos. Let's go. I love my Mexican heritage. I love everything that it stands for, but guess what? You'll never hear me refer to myself as Mexican American. Why? Because when I got shot, Mexico didn't do anything for me. Americans did. So why am I going to put them first? So you want to unite the country? Let's stop saying that we're African American or Asian American or Mexican American. Let's just be American. And I mean that so sincerely because you don't realize how precious that is. I got a good friend. His name's Mo. I took him to a Cowboys game. We won the game, so I'll tell you how long ago it was. He's half German, half Italian. And I never will forget him saying, John Wayne, I love America. And I'm like, well, I do too. Why is that? He's like, because you can come here and be American. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, I don't have a home, John. When I go to Italy, they say, you're not Italian, you're German. I go to Germany and say, oh, you're not German, you're Italian. You can come here and you can be American. How amazing is that? Everybody's going to watch the Olympics, right? How amazing is it that when the Olympics start and they say USA's on the starting block, we don't know what color they are? That's amazing, isn't it? That you can come here, any color, race, creed, or religion, and be an American. That American flag, that, by the way, the freedoms that came with that flag, we did not get with diplomacy. We got it with good men and women dying for those freedoms. And that we should never forget that. That we can come here and be like the American dream that everyone in here knows about. It is still real. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. That America is not in decline. If you don't believe that, look at me. And I don't mean it from an arrogant perspective of how awesome I am. I'm talking, look at my example. I always say, don't believe my resume because it's awesome. Right? We already went through it. John Wayne, all the stuff. What you don't read on my resume, that's in that pamphlet right there, the first memory of my dad was seeing him go to jail. My mom, she was already in jail. I'm not being figurative, crowd. I'm being dead serious. The first memory was seeing my dad. I was in the back seat of my grandma's town car. She had to stop because of chain gang of convicts with the orange jumpsuit, like you can all imagine, all chained up. They were walking from the county courthouse to the from lockup to the county courthouse to get sentenced. And we stopped, and I looked, and I saw them. My dad was the first guy I saw. That's my first memory. And you know what? I went from that kid to go live with their grandparents in some redneck town in Groesbeck, Texas. 3,500 people, $10 million football field. I'll tell you what it's like. If you've ever been in a small town, or you ever especially raised in a small town, you realize it's not a very aspirational place, is it? Like, boy, you don't get up and go to fun, you get up and go to work. Right? Get your head out of the clouds. We got stuff to do. We got work to do. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go serve. I didn't join the Army because I had a full ride to Harvard. I joined the Army because I needed something that was bigger than me, and I went and served, and I went on that parade field, graduating basic training, to being on another parade field, donning the coveted Green Beret, to being on another parade field, getting a Silver Star, which is the third highest award for valor, to one day being in the Oval Office with the president, and one day being on stage with another president. That happened here, y'all. How awesome is that? That little kid that comes from nothing could be in the presence of presidents that can start companies, sell them, start other companies, that all I want to do is hire vets. How did I do that? I did not blame anybody. I'm never a victim, I'm a victor. I don't let my circumstances dictate my directions. I put my effort into it and I go to work. Because I care about what that flag stands for. And I care about each and every one of you that are here today and why I'm here, to let you know that. Don't let anybody lie to you. Don't let anybody tell you you're not good enough, not smart enough, you can't do it. I promise you, you can. You're more capable than I am, and look what I did. So stop being good and start being great. The last one, be worth it. Be worth this leg that will never grow back. Be worth those names that never came home. Because I'm telling you, when you say thank you for my service, I don't say you're welcome, I say you're worth it. You're worth the struggle that I have to go through every single day. You're worth all of the memories that I never got to have with my family because I was deployed. You're worth all of the problems and challenges that we've had. What you're doing here today is worth it. Being resilient is worth it. It's hard, but it's worth it. Resiliency is one of the best things that you can ever learn. Real quick, 4 pillars. 4 pillars. Mental, physical, social, spiritual. Mental and physical, pretty dang simple, right? Stop giving your brain garbage. Start doing things that actually lift you up, and get in the gym and do something about it. Social. This is an absolute example of what social resiliency is like. You find those people that are pouring into you and not draining you, right? You get around those people that are lifting you up and not pulling you down. And you have the courage to get away from the ones that drain you or pull you. And then I say it's the foundation that those pillars sit on, which is a spiritual one. You're not an accident. God loves you. Your pain is for a purpose. I promise you that. It's to make you better. Believe in that and you will get better. This is worth it. Thank you so much.